arrived at the Sepang International Circuit in Kuala Lumpur for the running of the Malaysian Grand Prix, which could be the final ever Malaysian Grand Prix, depending on what happens with one of the rounds in 2020. More on that later. Coming into this week, one team has been making the headlines this week. The team that we are referring to is Manor, as they have announced their driver lineup for 2018. They have announced that Brit Etienne-Jones will remain with the team for the fourth successive season, and that the team's current test driver and current GP2 driver Maxim Titkov will be promoted to the top class to drive for the team next season. Maxim has had a very strong year in GP2 this season, with him being very consistent compared to all of his competitors bar one this season. He currently lies second in the GP2 Championship, 2 points back from current championship leader Laura Chung, whilst his team Russian Time found themselves second in the team's championship, 3 points back from current leaders ART. Maxim's high point this season came last week, where he finally broke his duck and won his first ever GP2 race, which as a result catapulted him to second in the championship, putting him right into the title fight. He'll be the second GP2 driver to be promoted for 2018 after Laura Chung was confirmed to be driving for Toro Rosso back in Hungary. Maxim will be looking to have an amazing season in 2018 and make a good impression in the top class. His announcement means that he'll become the first Russian to compete in the top class since Dmitry Surkov in 2008, which by the time we get to 2018 will be a space of 10 seasons. Meanwhile, his 2018 teammate Etienne-Jones has had a very impressive season in 2017, despite this year's Manor being down on pace compared to last year. He finds himself 21st in the Drivers' Championship, having just been overtaken by the Sauber Felix Sonntag, and his team Manor find themselves last, 15 points back from rivals Sauber. Etienne's highest point this season has to come in Baku, where he finished 7th, giving the team an important 6 points towards their Constructors' Championship campaign. Both he and Maxim will be looking to have a good year in 2018, especially when Manor enter their third to last season in the top class after it was confirmed last Tuesday that they'll be pulling out of the top class at the end of the 2020 season. Their announcements mean that Nicholas Zorbat will be leaving the team at the end of the season, with a lot of doubt surrounding whether he will be in the top class next season. It does appear more likely that Nicholas will end up in another tier next season, with the most rumoured being a return to GP2, which he would be eligible to compete in as a result of him only making his debut in the top class at Baku, which as a result would mean he wouldn't have done a full season in the top class come the time when the top class arrives in Brazil. Only time will tell what will happen with Nicholas for 2018. In other news, for anyone who didn't see the big announcement last Tuesday, it was confirmed by Yuri that the 2020 GP4 Offline Championship, which is 3 seasons away, would mark the final time that the top class will have its car performances based on real life, as the 2021 season will see the top class have fantasy car performances. Throughout the last few seasons, it had been questioned what would happen to GP4OC once it caught up to the real life Formula 1 season. However, the announcement last week has put those questions to bed, and GP4 from 2021 onwards will have fantasy car performances. Some people may be wondering why the move to fantasy car performances will come a lot sooner than anticipated, as by the time the OC reaches the end of the 2020 season, the 2021 and potentially 2022 Formula 1 World Championships would have already happened. But Yuri has explained that because the real life 2021 season will see the teams use the same cars as 2020, it made more sense for GP4OC to go down the fantasy route a lot sooner. To follow up on this reason, Yuri has also explained that the 2022 regulations, which are being introduced in real life, may cause some issues in terms of physics due to the cars being new, and continuing to base the car performances on real life for GP4OC would have meant a short turnaround to get the 2022 physics sorted for GP4OC standards. To follow up on this news, Manor, as mentioned earlier, announced at the same time the big news came out that they would be pulling out the OC at the end of 2020. The team was originally meant to pull out the series as soon as a new 11th team came to fruition in real life, but due to the move to fantasy car performances for 2021, it made sense for the Yorkshire-based team to pull out early. A new 11th team is expected to replace them from 2021, but the team's identity is yet to be revealed and won't be revealed until closer to the time. The move to fantasy car performances for 2021 also opens the opportunity for a custom calendar to be developed, and there are speculations going around that a couple of tracks may end up leaving the OC after 2020. Only time will tell what will happen with the calendar for 2021. Speaking of a calendar, that brings me back to what I mentioned at the beginning of this news video. Last week, unbeknownst to everyone in the stream chat, I said this towards the end of the episode. Who will be announced tuning to practice next week at what could be the final ever Malaysian Grand Prix. Notice how I said the words could be. Well, not only did I say that because of 2021, but also because of 2020, as there is doubt surrounding the Vietnamese Grand Prix in Hanoi. A few weeks ago, it was confirmed by Yuri that the 2020 GP4 Offline Championship would use the calendar that F1 was originally meant to use instead of the 2020 rescheduled calendar that F1 are currently using due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. However, there is a chance that Hanoi might not even be on the calendar for the 2020 GP4 Offline Championship due to the track at this point in time not being made yet for Grand Prix 4. If Hanoi doesn't get made before the start of the 2020 season, then there is a chance that the track could be replaced, and it is understood that it would be replaced by a track that was added on the rescheduled 2020 calendar. These tracks are of course Mugello, Imola, Portimao and the Nürburgring, who we recently said goodbye to a few weeks ago. With the rumours surrounding Sepang being added onto the rescheduled calendar, there is a chance Malaysia could end up being on the 2020 calendar if it is added onto the real-life 2020 calendar. Whether this will be determined via a vote or via Yuri nominating the track himself, we will have to wait and see. There could be a chance for the season to only consist of 21 races, but only time will tell. And that is it for this week's edition of the GP4OC News. The next team news will break at the Japanese Grand Prix next week. Who will be announced next? Tune in to practice at Suzuka next week.